The last video project I did was on reverse discrimination, and I wanted to explore a little bit from sort of an outsider's point of view how society thinks. How is it that people come to these kinds of conclusions about people, judging them on surface appearances? That's why I called my book Beyond the Boxes, because what's really funny, and I wrote it in my book, my mini book as well, So What's a Disability Supposed to Look Like? It's almost like people profile people and they don't know they're doing it. The reason why I can see that they're doing it is because I've had to do it in order to understand people, but I do this backwardsly in a way. That's not a word, but I profile people to get the general gist of understanding their surface demeanor, but I don't stop there. I look deeper and I get to know them and start to observe them objectively layer by layer until I can see that individuality and that plethora of traits that make that person who they are individually, and nobody is the same, just like your fingerprint, but I feel like the media and society, you want to talk about personality disorder, I feel it's like society has a personality disorder. They categorize, they split, they think black and white, they idealize and devalue people. For example, they profile people like when they see somebody who's overweight and, kind of frumpy looking and older and stuff, say that person says, oh, I'm diabetic. Instantly you think that, well, they're overweight and they're old and they're diabetic, they're type 2, they brought it on themselves. But how do you know? What if that person says, hey, I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was 5. I've had to take insulin. Maybe their weight and their appearance has nothing to do with that, There's another one. There seems to be this whole burn her at the stake thing that goes on with attractive women, where apparently we're automatically factitious and histrionic and attention seekers when we try and say that we're actually suffering. I say, like, I'm in a bad mood because I'm in pain. They could sexistly and beauty biasedly, not a word, they could assume that I'm having a mood disorder and a personality, attention seeking. Oh, poor her. Like, isn't it so hard, to look like you do? Obviously, you can't get enough attention and you want more. That's reverse discrimination. That's beauty bias. That's a type of reverse discrimination. That's another unfair profiling, right? People profile all the time. People assume that just because somebody's down and out, that means that they're unintelligent, uneducated, and stupid. People assume that just because somebody got through med school that they're trustworthy and they know what they're talking about. They can make mistakes too, right? So society profiles all the time. And it's to do with the indoctrination, which is what I write about in Beyond the Boxes. It's to do with the fact that there's this heavy veil of disempowerment in the ability for us to think for ourselves and develop our own objective, multifaceted opinions about what we see and what we take in our sensory system and how that relates. It's not just autistic people. Autistic people don't have a filter. The reason why we think outside the box or think beyond the boxes, which is what I now like to say, that's why I changed my name a little bit. We don't become indoctrinated. We're out-doctrinated. We're automatically out-doctrinated. We can't help it. I mean, we might be able to sort of present and try and fit in with society in order to function, but ultimately we don't take things at face value in the same way. We're constantly developing our own opinions. We constantly think objectively. We just can't help it. And we get, attacked for that and discriminated against for that. But frankly, people ought to be taking a leaf out of our books more often because, if more people thought objectively and did not profile and assume, and if people were more aware that they were doing it in the first place. I mean, this is how judgment happens, right? We all judge. Even people with autism can judge. I'm not saying autistics are immune to negative societal influence. We're not, but we're just less prone to becoming completely indoctrinated. So the worst case scenario, autistic people have become the bullies at the top. Occasionally you do have some Aspies up there with the can't beat 'em, join 'em attitude. That's a different thing. But what I mean is that, society profiles Society discriminates. Society is indoctrinated to do those things, and that's why it happens so often without people knowing it. Media is built on that, but the media is powerful. The media is a double-edged sword. It can enact the work of angels or demons. The media is not something to be negated to the point where we say, oh, we have to get rid of media. No, the internet's a blessing. Thank God for the internet. This is how revolutions have happened. This is how things are changing as fast as they are, is because of the internet and social media. The media can be used as a tool to outdoctrinate. The media can be used as a tool to heighten awareness and to raise consciousness so that we can start viewing things beyond the boxes. So the point of the video was that we ought to start thinking beyond the boxes, and if we did, we wouldn't make these kinds of judgments. We wouldn't have an automatic system in our head that jumps to these kinds of judgments, because when we have that automatic system inside our head, we're kind of acting as inadvertent accomplices to the entire people up there that are giving us all the short end of the stick and buying more Porsches and Mercedes and mansions and castles and up there going, ha 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 ha, work your ass off, take these RX pills. We're giving them power when we don't say, hey, I can think for myself. When we sort of mentally boycott them by remembering that if we don't wake up and raise our consciousness that we are acting as inadvertent accomplices to the entire indoctrination that has been set up intentionally to keep us disempowered and to keep us not thinking for ourselves and to prevent positive change from occurring in order to retain profit and material wealth for the very few up there at the expense of all of us. So that's just a short little blurb on that.